Thank you for joining us here on this Monday morning. Finch here. I got Tolly with me as well. We're going to be taking a look at the Smite Console League in Europe. And I do mean the league. We got some change-ups here to the format this time. Going to be 4 teams. Going to be doing the double round robin format. So very much mirroring like the SPL total.
6 weeks of play. So get that revenge matchups during weeks 4, 5, and 6 specifically. And not just the change-ups in the league format specifically, but also our new changes in the winners since the last LAN.
That's right. Yeah, RvL. One of the teams that we're going to be watching here is going to be RvL up against Fable, are actually your winners from this console LAN. Europe finally able to take home that crown. And Tolu, that's actually a big reason why I'm so excited for this set. I believe Fable and RvL are scrim partners. They talked about that a bit at the LAN. So we know that these two teams are very close, and getting to compete at the highest level in your practice is what's going to make you better later on, as you do have here the schedule to look forward to throughout the week.
There should be a lot of mind games as well between those two teams, and normally favoring out RvL, the more experienced veteran team. But now with Fable getting that LAN experience under their belt, there's been a lot of teams that made a lot of mental shifts since like even participating in the LAN. Most formidably known, Cyclone GG, that is now known as RvL in the PC side, doing very well in Season 4 and finally winning one in Season 5.
That's right. RvL just doing well everywhere at this point. Isn't on PC, on console, just about everywhere. So you can see on the schedule there's going to be some North American action for you all to look forward to later on today, but the European team is the one we're going to take a look at first. And for this RvL team, man, my eyes are on this duo lane, Vaporous Coast and DineOhSaw. They just get off to such a strong start. They are always looking to fight in lane. I'd be surprised if we saw anything different.
You could just tell how confident they both are because of the interviews that we've done pre-game, post-game as well. When they were up against Astral Authority, we asked them what would be the weaknesses they're going to look to exploit. They were like, dual lane, we're just going to wreck them kind of deal. They were so confident going in, but you can't neglect the opposite style lane as well. Predators. The MVP from the LAN was just doing a good job. He made a little bit of a silly shenanigan plays from time to time, but he definitely stepped up big when it mattered.
Yeah, way over there in the solo lane. So we'll see what he's able to get done for them. But I think we're just about ready to start moving into this first game here, Totally, in just a few more moments. But talking about Vaporous Coast and DineOhSaw, we'll see what Davey and Killy there in the dual lane can do to try and duke it out up against Vaporous Coast and DineOhSaw. It's such a strong matchup that they're going to have to go into. So I'm worried. I want to see if they're going to prioritize that here in the picks and bans. Since we're in them, they're right here on the screen. Fable already banning that Zeus.
I'm just curious how Fable's going to adapt since that LAN participation against RvL. They probably have taken a lot of notes to be able to adapt to this. They have to start off strong in week number 1 if they want to make their shot again at the next LAN.
And there were plenty of VODs to go back and look at from RvL. They played a lot of games. So Fable should be able to have done some homework on them and come in with some strategies. But so far, things are looking fairly meta, I would say, in these bans. Totally. Take away the Dodgy, the Odin, the Achilles. That does leave first pick available for Fable, and they're going to go right into that Cucullin.
Going for a very strong, stable solo laner. You can't go wrong. It's difficult to lose the lane.
That's right.
You're not necessarily always going to win the lane as Cucullin, but more importantly, how you transition in those mid to late game fights. And Cucullin is an absolute monster once he transforms.
Yeah, and that might even, a literal monster, but that might even deter some Guardians from getting picked in the solo lane because it's such a tough matchup in the Cucullin if you're like, you know, the Sobak or the Cerberus, someone that gets off to a little bit of a slow start. So maybe that might be a bit of a deterrence. We'll see if RvL still want to go that route.
A lot of control between Terra and solo isolation with Robin in those late game team fights. Guan being picked very early in the draft. I like this idea. The late game team fights with the heals is pretty strong.
Guan Yu strong can match some of the healing that Terra is able to provide, some of that big team fight presence by having this Guan Yu on the squad. Now with the Cucullin locked in, this makes you think that we're definitely going to be seeing Guan Yu support at this point. Are you feeling the same way about that one totally?
I'm feeling confident that that could be the case. Unless it's Cucullin jungle potentially with Guan Yu in the solo lane, but against the Hercules that can stop your Talu Assault with that driving strike, that's not a matchup I would want to take. I would want to see this Guan Yu in support.
Man, but who on this RvL squad do you kill right now, right? Between the Terra, the Robin, and the Hercules, that is not going to be an easy task for those Fable boys, at least not with these first 3 picks, as the Uller is what round that out for Fable. I like this. Take that one away from Vaporous. This is a pick he really likes to play, so Fable going to have that on their side.
Already taking away some bans on the side of the Poseidon and the Agni. Considering that Waldrom is Fable's mid laner, this is 2 gods that he definitely prefers. RvL have a lot of notes against this team, and I'm not surprised with those 2 bans.
The Ra and the Rom were the bans for Fable as well, so trying to limit a little bit more sustain, and then yet another very strong late-game hunter for this dual laner rival that they're trying to strip away from them. But with both bans in, we're turning back to rival now to see where they want to go. They still need the mid laner, they still need their hunter, and there's a lot of strong options. Hachiman, very comfortable as Vaporish on this.
I'm surprised that they banned the Rom instead of the Hachiman, considering that during the LAN, if it wasn't Ullr, it was normally Hachiman or vice versa. I haven't really seen him play too much Rom, but I guess Fable are worried about the late game potential. Rom, steroids, pick me up. You don't really want to deal with all those frontliners that rival has.
Well, plus the snipes are pretty strong too on the ultimate. Maybe that's it. If you get away at low health, Rom can kind of chase you out with the ultimate a little bit and not let you escape. So maybe that's kind of the idea, trying to give him a chance to regroup and heal around the Guan Yu, and maybe this makes that a little bit easier as Geb and Discordia come in for Fable.
Discordia passive might be the turning point for the dueling potential.
Oh, yeah.
If Vaporish, of course, is looking to play aggressive against Davey and Killy specifically, that Discordia passive will amplify the Ullr a little bit and maybe give Davey the advantage he needs.
And there's going to be Raijin that locks in that last pick for rival in the mid lane. So very strong comps coming out from both teams. And I don't want to hold y'all up anymore. We are just about ready to move into the game here between Fable and rival. Rival, again, your SCL Springland victors, and Fable, their EU counterparts who they have been battling up against within their scrims, are ready to fight it out. And it is actually going to be, with that Geb locked in, the Guan Yu in the jungle. So that was an option there, that Guan Yu could potentially be going there, as Auzrik is the one that's going to be piloting it.
Channeling his inner DJ Pernicus. It's a guy that can definitely work if you can find the right timing of the ganks and the right target, because he's not a god that necessarily is going to always want to farm. And in the jungle role, especially Season 5, with how fast the jungle has just shifted and your presence needing to be all over the map, Guan Yu is not normally known for his mobility, just getting from lane to lane. He's about catching people with a horse, granted, but you're not using that horse to rotate. You're using that horse to fight.
That's right, and it's going to be a strong initiation. That's one of those check boxes, right, for your junglers. If you put something that's not normally an assassin in there, you want to make sure that they have some nice, strong initiation. And I don't know if there's much better than that horse, man. I mean, he can kind of wait out and bait your beads or bait your movement abilities, then stun you right towards the end and set up a kill for his team.
It's about looking for, I think, the mid to late game team fights. Fable GG are already looking at the end of the road between the Guan Yu and then they add the Geb on top of it. The shields are going to be very impactful towards saving anybody that DineOhSaw targets out between the root and the stun combo.
Really ready to get everything going. Got the axe already landing on the DineOhSaw here. Does Davey. He's able to get the push back. Not too surprised, though, to see this Ullr be able to come off to a good start. Geb doesn't provide that much himself in wave clear, but Ullr just so strong at it early on, has two abilities, can force you back, and they're ready to start looking for buff invades if they want. But no, instead they're looking to fight here as Davey, and it is going to be Total Bad Warriors here with him as well.
You were talking about the pressure that Ullr has in general, and I agree with you. That's why I'm surprised that Rival didn't actually just start off their purple, have the Terra use those walls to delay the minions from getting to the wave, and then starting off a very safe buff. But because they didn't, now they're going to be able to go for their own purple buff. They're going to, however, potentially lose some gold under the tower if those minions get there quick enough.
Looks like this probably is going to work out in favor of Rival. You're right. It looks like the minions might make it just barely to the tower, like the first one or two. But overall, they didn't lose nearly as much as they perhaps could have. So Rival not going to be kicking themselves too much as we turn our attention towards this Guan Yu in the jungle. I want to be following along and see what he's able to accomplish on this pick. What's his impact going to be like pre-level 5 total?
It's about counter-engaging whoever Rapio targets out and taking some poke damage from those fists. He's just going to be able to heal it up, especially now that he hits level 3. He has all 3 of his abilities if he wants. Not going for a crazy amount of sustain, but he should be able to keep up with the pressure as long as he's right next to Waldrom.
As long as he is there with that Discordia and able to get plenty of setup. I mean, even if Guan doesn't have the ultimate with him, I mean, with Waldrom able to land the Strife, you know, if Total Bad Boy can land plenty of setup with the Geb, or even Davey can find an axe, I mean, he doesn't always have to come from Auzrik, and he has plenty of damage too. So this Guan Yu certainly can work out well for them, as the axe doesn't quite land, but Davey continuing to play aggressive.
Still looking for poke, but he's out of mana. Forced to use the sprint defensively, still turning around backwards as Davey feeling very confident. Total Bad Boy was in position to at least intercept some of those basic attacks as Rapio right around the corner, but he doesn't have Blink.
Oh, this is scary. This could potentially be problems, man. Robin's so good at these early level ganks because he does have that root and the slow available to him if he's able to catch him out. Going in for the stun, doesn't land from DineOhSaw, but Total Bad Boy could be in trouble if they catch him before he's CC immune. They do get the root. They block the rollout as well. The shield not going to be enough. Rapio puts him down. First blood goes over to Team RvL.
In less than 3 minutes worth of time. Great patience across the board. RvL really sinking into Fable this early on allows them to get the momentum, and if they can avoid the late game against the Guan Yu and Gab, that's probably the game plan that RvL are coming up with.
And that was just you're right, that gank was executed so well from them. They're able to get the wall to sort of force Total Bad Boy over towards the wall. Then they're able to come in and body block him so he can't roll out any further. And it was just too much damage to burst him through that Gab shield. First blood goes to RvL, and it goes on to this Robin jungle who does want to get off to a quick start like this.
The pressure from the warrior jungles is what you're really looking for, but the warrior jungle from Guan Yu provides a little bit of a different taste on the dish. So it's important for Fable to prevent those kinds of losses so that they can at least get into the mid game at a neutral state.
Right.
That Guan Yu is going to tip the scales once he gets some cooldown reduction. I'm really looking for a Jotun's Wrath sooner rather than later.
Speaking of how they're going to be trying to get towards that mid-game, Waldrom has elected to go right into that Soul Reaver. We've seen this start come out a little bit more lately, that it gives so much power early on here, Toli, but it does mean that you don't get some of that safety from the Warlocks.
It's very true. Not having the health could potentially come back to haunt him, but as long as he's right next to the Guan Yu for the sustain, that might not be an issue, especially when Discordia has some capabilities to peel for herself. She does have the Cloud to disappear in and could definitely elude some of her Predators coming right at her. And then on top of that, she can root people, maybe apply some madness with the Strife if she hits two players. And that's the mindset that Waldrom is coming into this game, that he's not too worried about getting targeted as long as he plays correctly.
That's a great point, Toli. Waldrom has not just the Guan Yu, but the Geb too. I mean, that's about as much safety from the rest of your team as you could ask for. The Geb shields, the shockwave, that's so much peel that's able to be provided. So Waldrom can go the Soul Reaver as Rapio puts good damage into him, brings him down to about half health, but the horse is coming out from Auzrik. He wants to get this fight started now. Mystic Rush, though, avoids the stun. Auzrik has got to start looking for the retreat. Tycho Drums try and pull him back in. The last hit does pull him back, and Rapio finds it. That's going to be a second kill for him as Bad Boy finds Vapor's Coast over in duo.
Oh, it could be a bad sign for DineOhSaw if he gets second victim, though. Will find the root, still has the second dash, will avoid the accident, but he can't avoid the bladed arrow. Davey coming in strong to find the kill. Onto his rival, honestly, on Vaporish.
Man, that's so important for Fable GG. Rapio got off to a good start, 2-0-0 already. For this duo lane to be able to get that clean 2v2 and take down DineOhSaw and Vapor's Coast, slow down some of these stars for the rival roster, and try and keep things even across the map. What could have been bad gets evened out by that duo lane.
And Auzrik definitely overstepping his boundaries, considering that Rapio got off a lot of damage on Waldrom. Granted, used all three of his abilities minus the ultimate, and that's what really triggered Auzrik to play aggressive. However, Mystic Rush does a lot of damage, and not only that, it applies the damage reduction. So there was not too much follow-up from Waldrom because he also used the Strife, he also used the Unruly Magic, so the only thing that there was left was the ultimate out of Discordia, which wasn't even going to do too much to Rapio, considering that the damage was being dealt onto Auzrik instead.
And Rapio had the beads too, so he just knew that he trusted his Mystic Rush timing. That was one of those interactions I mentioned with Auzrik as he gets some trouble in the jungle from Fly, who rotated over, is that you can kind of wait out abilities, but Auzrik not able to find it that time on that gank in the mid lane. Instead, he's going to have to retreat here from the jungle. Not too much more action going to come from that.
If there's ever a target that Auzrik is going to focus out, I don't think that it's going to be Rapio. Taking a decent amount of his health, DineOhSaw forced to use that Earth and Fury just to get that heal over time will be topped off, but without that team fighting ultimate, Fable can definitely look for a small objective. Maybe not the Gold Fury necessarily, but at least collapse on Rapio on the right side of the map.
See if there's a chance they can make it happen, and it looks like they're going to go for it. Rapio is fighting up against ChronicThe Bros right now, looking for the retreat. He doesn't have anyone even rotating over. I think he realized that he's mostly going to be fine. Instead, they're going to roll towards mid-Harpies, where Fly was hanging out, but he's too far away as well, so they don't really find anything with that opportunity. But we did get a chance to see Waldrom's early damage there up against DineOhSaw. I mean, he's chunking.
with the Soul Reaver, absolutely. Doesn't even need Shoes of Focus or Shoes of the Mad Guy, especially against a low-level Guardian that doesn't have the health or the protection to fight into anyone, whether it's going to be the mid-mage or even the Hunters. So that's why we saw RvL taking an early spill in that duo lane. The Ullr aggression from Davey has been very respectable in this first game.
Yeah, able to get quite a good bit of damage there was Waldrom, as you mentioned, and DineOhSaw a little bit too far behind, not too far behind, but at this point just not quite as tanky as probably would like to be, so got smacked for a good bit of damage, but he'll be okay either way. 3-man grouping here in the mid lane, though. Fly has the clear and is able to get that wave cleared up. Not ready to start these fights just yet. Actually, a little surprised we're seeing this grouping happening at this stage in the game. What are they looking for, totally?
They're looking for somebody to overstep. With Auzrik playing that aggressive earlier when he went onto Rapio, maybe RvL are hoping that he'll do it again and kind of bait himself out there. But Auzrik not having too much mana, needed to retreat back to the fountain to make himself a little bit more useful. Speed buff coming up in less than a minute's worth time.
Looks like VaporScoast, though, had to back. I think that Davey and Total Bad Boy have a lot of pressure on him in the dual lane. Looked like he had to use the ultimate as well. The mounted archery had to come out, so VaporScoast having a bit of a harder time here up against this Fable GG dual lane. And I'm not too surprised. I mean, that's part of what makes Ullr so strong, right? He's such a good boxer in the lane, but Hachiman almost certainly be a better hunter once they start moving away from that phase.
Super safe as Hachiman with just the distance covered with the mounted archery, able to extend his basic attacks from 55 to 85 with that first steroid ability. That's what you're really looking for with the Hachiman, is being picked in not only the Smite Pro League, but also the Console League.
Looks like Auzrik is coming back to grab his own speed buff. It looked like VaporScoast might have been having some issues there with the game, so we'll see if he can get that sorted out. ChronicThe Bros, instead, though, going to duke it out with Predators over in the solo lane. Looks like, yeah, they are going to be pausing to try and get that settled out for VaporScoast. So we'll have a brief pause coming out here while we get that all taken care of for you. No big deal, but already that dual lane is going a little bit differently than how I expected. Fable GG are the ones with the early pressure.
I'm not too worried for RvL, considering that Rapio had a great start. So that's something that hunters will struggle with in the early game, but they always will make that late game influencers once it comes to late. You just need the 4th, 5th, 6th item, and then those guardians, those warriors, they're just going to start melting away. But keep in mind the Guan Yu and the Geb, it's going to be difficult for VaporScoast to really find the damage. So I'm looking for that anti-lifesteal out of RvL.
Yeah, I think it's going to be much, much harder for RvL the later the game goes to try and burst someone down very quickly. The Guan Yu's heals are going to be coming out insanely fast, helping to keep the team topped up. So I agree with you. I think that RvL's kind of got to get things going earlier rather than later, or the Guan Yu Geb. I mean, I don't know how you fight through it.
It's definitely a possibility that it could be Fable winning this game and finding some of the revenge onto RvL, but it's still very important to see how they handle that early game pressure. Rapio was patient in the duo lane before that first blood, just kind of stalking his prey like he always does. Normally known for playing a lot of Fenrir, a lot of Thor as well, definitely expanding a lot of his god pool. And since winning this LAN, you could hear how emotional he was after that interview. This was a long time coming for him and all of Europe in the console world.
And Fable felt like they were a part of that totally. I mean, they worked with them in the scrims. They worked with them prepping for those matches as well. They kind of watched the VODs back and talked it over. So the Europe teams have been kind of building towards this as a collective, and now they're very happy they've been able to get this victory. I'm sure Fable, though, want to be the ones that can get their names on that trophy next time, so they want to grab that win. But you talked about some of the aggression from Rapio. It was Auzrik who was kind of stepping out of line earlier and got punished for it. I mean, I wonder if we're going to keep seeing that aggression from him.
I think fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me kind of deal. And he kind of baited himself out. You can't even put the blame on Rapio that used all of his abilities, because he still had his ultimate. You have to literally wait for all of the abilities from Raven before you engage on him, at least in that early pressure. Guan Yu is not one to fight that early on, at least not on a Raven, like I mentioned. It needs to be on a squishier target. If Fly is going to be out of position, if VaporScoast is going to be out of position, those are the two targets that you want to isolate and try to go on early. Until then, when you don't have the items to really make that happen, then you just got to be patient and farm it up, because team fights roll around, and then all of a sudden, the rest of your team is more resilient, and that's what you're looking for with Fable's draft.
Yeah, and I don't know how comfortable I am in that moment if I'm Waldrom moving up to follow in. I mean, because he hit me for like half health. I built Soul Reaver. I don't have Warlock staff, right? I don't know if I want to kind of walk up into that. So Auzrik goes in aggression. I don't know if he had the most follow-up, and didn't really matter because the Mystic Rush outplay was there.
That's very true, but keep in mind, these two teams specifically, they trust each other to the point where even though that there wasn't the Unruly Magic, there wasn't the Strive, you still got to follow up with that call. You still got to be able to trust your teammate, like, all right, he used the horse, it's time for me to use use
gotta
my
go
ultimate
in.
as well. Like maybe my apple will spread. Maybe we'll even switch the target onto Fly. And keep in mind, this used to be 50-meter Fly.
That's
He's
right.
feeling very confident after this land victory to change his name.
Going just with the Fly. Now, I like it. Fly looking good as we are back into the game. Looks like we do have Vapor's Coast back here with us as well. So everything should be okay as we can get back into the action. But we touched on it earlier, Tully. I kind of want to see RvL make some moves here towards the end of this early game, or still kind of in the early game part of the game right now. I'd like to see them not wait until this Guan Yu and Geb are too strong to deal with.
It's definitely a good look for RvL as we approach the 10-minute mark. The fact that they're able to still kind of make the things happen whenever they want to. They're not really touching the soul lane quite yet. Hercules up against Kakolan. That's a matchup you definitely don't want to touch on either side, and neither one of these two soul lane players are hugging the tower line to really take advantage of.
A buff invade is coming out from Fable GG. They're on the red buff right now, and RvL getting there just a little bit too late. Looks like, though, the call's coming out from DineOhSaw trying to rotate on the back side. Maybe potentially catch someone out, but they're going to be able to successfully get away with that red buff invade. Are going to be the side of Fable GG.
Looking for more in the soul lane between these two. Just try to build a rage is what ChronicThe Bros is trying to do. Whereas Predators, when you get hit, the passive starts taking into effect where you get additional power. So that way your driving strike is doing more damage. That excavate is going to be able to potentially find the last hit. But if you're not going to find the shots onto ChronicThe Bros, you're just wasting your time.
And Tully, you were talking to me about Auzrik's build earlier on, how you wanted to see him potentially go with the Jotun to try and get that cooldown and get those abilities off earlier on. He went right into the Crusher, so it's going to be looking for that little bit of extra damage coming from the passive. Meanwhile, Rapio has prioritized that Brawler's Beat Stick to try and cut into some of this healing early.
This makes a little sense from Auzrik's point of view, considering that when you use Tallow Assault, you're also shredding their physical protection, which enhances the damage coming from Crusher. So there is some synergy there, but I just overvalue cooldown reduction with how frequent you could use the dash heal combination, especially as we approach the 11.5-minute mark, where at any given moment, either team can start up a Gold Fury. And if I was a Guan Yu, I would much rather have 2 to 3 additional heals, considering it also gives me mana, than more damage on my Tallow Assault, which could potentially get interrupted anyway, depending who I'm next to.
Rapio going aggressive into the jungle after their own jungle stripped away from them on the red buff last time, able to find, looks like, some of those back Harpies. In fact, now he's coming up to meet with Predators as ChronicThe Bros was coming towards the blue buff. Looks like it was not there just yet, so ChronicThe will be able to get out of there. RvL defend the blue. Ends up being all fine over here in the jungle.
These two teams are just still feeling each other out. Kind of the post-land sickness, if you will. Like, they're still not too sure of where the opening is quite yet. So they're waiting with bated breath of the pressure, and that's what Rapio has been doing so well this game.
Red buff invades coming out again. Rapio's here this time. Red buff's already been dropped by Fable, but they're putting the damage onto the Geb right now. Cataclysm's going to come out. Tycho drums in response from Fly. He puts on Auzrik, who's on the horse, and chunks him incredibly low and finds him with the Mystic Rush. Another kill for Rapio. 3-0-0. Davey forced to jump away as Rapio continues the chase.
Vapor's Coast had to use that mounted archery just to disengage. Rapio looking for more. He doesn't have a second relic for the blink, but will not use that beads in preparation. Not worth it just to chase down a lonely old Geb, but with Vapor's Coast back in the mix in the mid lane, trying to lifesteal it up. It's going to be Predators zoning out Waldrom. RvL not looking for the Gold Fury quite yet with how low Vaporish was.
Yeah, our solo laners are here, not just Predators, but Chronic was way over on the dual lane side as well. They weren't able to find too much in engagement. Actually, Predators are going to go look for the speed buff invade, and it's only Waldrom who's there recognizing that that's happening to try and prevent that from going down. He's actually got him low. The solo potential's there. Predators takes down the Waldrom in the speed buff and takes the buff as well. He's out.
A 2-for-1. Finding the mid lane mage, also stealing away the speed buff, affecting Auzrik in the process. Rapio is also smiling like, thanks, buddy. Now I'm going to be able to even get more momentum. 2-level lead between these two junglers, whereas Fly also still level 12 alongside Waldrom.
Well, every time that Waldrom takes a spill, I'm going to find myself coming back to the Soul Reaver start. I mean, does a Warlock staff do enough to keep him alive there? I'm not quite sure, because Predators kind of had him isolated from everyone else. Could have found the in-hands, but that was close. He just had used all his abilities.
That's true. Without any sort of outside assistance, it's very exploitable, the build, without the health. And then we were mentioning that the Guan Yu, that the Geb is going to allow Waldrom to get away with his build. But yes, being isolated, so easy to to take advantage of this build.
And that was Waldrom recognizing Predator's pathing. Chronic kind of came through the mid lane and didn't continue to chase, so he was the only one that could defend the speed buff. In that situation, totally, I mean, does he just have to give that up? I mean, is he right to try and defend it?
It's possible that you could just use the ultimate and then time your Strife or your Unruly Magic, considering that the Driving Strike does a lot of damage to confirm. If you're going to use your ultimate, you prevent that with the Cripple and maybe even force out the Excavate out of Hercules and then, you know, at least flip a coin for that speed buff while Auzrik is not there.
In the end, Predator is able to make quite a nice play for himself and slow down Waldrom here on the Discordius. 50-meter fly, or rather just fly now. Catches a little bit from Chronic here in the mid lane. These solo laners kind of beating up on the Maid, as it feels like, as Rapio rotates in as well.
Both sitting at 15. This is where they truly shine. Genji's guard has been completed for Predators, getting a lot of that MP5 to be able to spam the heal, spam the driving strikes. On the flip side, ChronicThe Bros probably going to go for a hide of the Nemea line if I were to guess, considering that Vaporish Coast has definitely been a problem for Fable GG, at least mentally, and this could be the way to overcome it. Getting a double hide of Nemea line if Auzrik decides to do the same thing, but the Thorns on the Kukulkan is what's really going to help stay on the ADC Hunter.
Yeah, Vaporish Coast, especially at LAN, very much like to build crit. I think he built crit every single game, so he might not be able to go that same route. I mean, he does have the Iqbal here now, so we'll see if that's an adjustment he's already made, but considering the itemization from Chronic and Auzrik and the Thorns, that's very likely going to be changed. You have to consider going with a different playstyle as the Cataclysm comes out from Bad Boy. DineOhSaw able to force that one out from him, and he has to come back and regroup in mid.
Interesting decision, because the Cataclysm definitely disrupted the combo from Terra dashing through her own monolith, but there was just no follow-up. But the danger is now back onto the Geb.
Yeah, this is the corridor they wanted to fight in, already deleted by the Tycho drones. Vaporish Coast finds the last hit. Bad Boy gonna have to sit this one out. Gold Fury now in the sights of Team RvL Predators. Is it gonna be the one that's on zone duty? Gold Fury already down to about 75%, and I don't think anyone aside from Davies even close. Chronic's gonna rotate on the top side. Gold Fury's very low. Team RvL need to go zone.
Gonna be able to zone away one. The Gold Fury is very low, but they do confirm it. ChronicThe Bros trying to kill Vaporish Coast instead of looking for the steal with his ultimate.
Predators finds Waldrom yet again. Auzrik gonna come in with the horse. He's looking for DineOhSaw. Stuns him out. Very low. Axe comes in as well. Chronic finds the last hit, and DineOhSaw's out of here. Vaporish Coast now going 1v1 up against the solo laner, and he wants nothing more to do with that. The rest of Team RvL gonna continue to chase. Blink comes out from Rapio and Auzrik. He's slowed. He's the target. Aegis is not gonna be enough. He's down.
Gonna find two easy picks after the Gold Fury, only losing DineOhSaw, but they might not be done yet. ChronicThe Bros is going to be the target. He doesn't have the ultimate to find the knockup, but he does have the Geb shield.
Wow, Rapio has really been the difference maker here, totally. 4-0-1 on this Robin play just now, and it was very close on that Gold Fury. ChronicThe Bros rotated in just barely, I feel like a little bit early with the ultimate, and couldn't take it and confirm it afterwards. So RvL get the Gold Fury. They win the fight afterwards rather handily as well, off good play from Rapio. And they're up 7-3, looking good.
Without Fly's ultimate, that was a dicey call from RvL. They did pick off Geb very quickly. They had to invest, I believe, 3 ultimates, Mystic Rush, Tycho Drums, and that Earth and Fury. So not having it for the team fight, Fable GG should have been all over that Gold Fury a lot quicker without those 3 ultimates from RvL.
But that's a good call. You mentioned that Bad Boy used the Cataclysm like a few seconds earlier on the DineOhSaw, kind of alone in the jungle. I don't know what that call was all about, but they don't have the Cataclysm in that team fight, and instead they sort of get caught in that jungle pathway. That's exactly where RvL with the big ultimate 50-meter fly want to fight.
So BB91 was afraid that he was going to get disrupted between the root, so he wanted to use that Cataclysm defensively so that he wouldn't die in that position, but then he still moves up forward because he's afraid that RvL is going to do Gold Fury. So he just dies anyway because he doesn't have that Cataclysm. And it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't situation. Fable GG need to recognize when RvL are grouped up so that they can at least react in kind. If they're going to invest 3 ultimates on your support, you have to have your teammates capitalize immediately after.
Yeah, another big fight comes out from Team RvL. They now hold for themselves about a 3,000 gold lead to go along with their kill lead as we talk about the 18.5-minute mark. I was saying that I wanted RvL to kind of force the issue totally. Is this enough for you? Is this, they need to keep up with this kind of pace?
It's getting there. There's a 3-level discrepancy between Rapio and Auzrik, and that could be all that's needed for RvL to really run away with it. The gold lead is not significant enough to start sieging down some of these towers,
Sure.
but the experience is certainly getting there. Rapio very close to level 20's Predators has always been a nuisance. Onto Waldrom, it's just no breathing room for this non-Warlock staff mid-mage.
Well, this is exactly it. ChronicThe Bros is fighting it out up against DineOhSaw as well as Rapio, but there's a little bit more trouble coming his way as the rest of Fable now group up. Fly forced to jump away. It's actually Bad Boy who's in a lot of trouble. The Taiko drums come out to try and control him, and Rapio finds him. Of course he does. Auzrik not able to find the last hit for the stun, so Rapio can box it out. And Predators hunts down Waldrom again, takes down the mid-mage. Now it's ChronicThe Bros who's trapped between 4 red jerseys, and they're going to look for the chase.
Trying to get away. He's going to get slowed for the moment. No, actually just barely gets away, but not away from the blink of Rapio. He found 5 kills. He won't find his 6 because he would much rather stay alive. Percussive Storm is good from Fly. 3 dead Fable GG members could open the door out of this Pyromancer, but man, Predators is finding these pulls onto Waldrom, and unfortunately for Waldrom there, didn't use those relics to survive.
That's what it's looking like as Davey and Vaporous Coast take the 1v1. Aegis has already come out from the Hachiman. Davey jumped away, but now comes out the mounted archery. That's going to mean that the Aegis has to come out. Good axe stun in response, but Vaporous finds the shot. Solo kill goes over to Vaporous Coast.
A lot of mind games between those two. You can definitely tell that they're getting into each other's heads between the use of those relics. Both of the relics from Vaporous was used, whereas only the Aegis from Davey didn't really need to use the beats considering he didn't get stunned, still holding on to that Iyajitsu out of the Hachiman. So RvL one step above Fable in all lanes considered.
That's right. Team RvL are winning just about everywhere at this point in the game. It really helps that Vaporous was able to find that solo kill over there because it really had been Davey to that point that kind of had the pressure in the lane. And now that this Hachiman has the Executioner finished off, is working on what looks to be the Kin size, I think he's ready to box it out up against the Uller. Now that extra attack speed he has, I feel like is making the difference.
Making the adaptations. No longer is he going crit compared to that last land. Very worried about all that reflect damage between the Thorns and the Hydranamine from Chronic. That's definitely going to look to stick on him, especially the Gladiator Shield, sustaining him back up as ever so slightly.
I want to talk about Rapio, though. I mean, he's done such a good job for this Team RvL roster. He's either the one, he's starting fights for the team, he's the one that ends fights for the teams, he's using the blinks not just to get fights started off, but to cut distance as well. I feel like Rapio has been all over the map.
It's also the patience. A lot of junglers will try to force a little bit too much, but not Rapio. He's going to wait in the duel lane at 2.5 minutes for 1 first blood, and then on top of blinking on to a member as Fable.
I think Fable stole that.
What?
Because there's a bunch of rival dudes. They were the ones looking at it. I think Davey perhaps might have been able to strip that Gold Fear away. It's Fable.
Wow.
The ones who are able to come out with that. That's a big swing.
Wow, apparently no one was zoning effectively enough for RvL to secure that one. And that's the problem with their comp as well. They don't have that huge burst damage like your Raws, your Cuckoo Clans kind of deal, but RvL trying to get something in return.
Taiko Drum and Cataclysm, what a combination, and Fable are feeling it right here in this fight. Rapio's way on the backside. Mystic Rush chunks Waldrom yet again, he's on his way out. ChronicThe Bros on the front side, the fight gets taken down. Fly finds the last hit, and it's a 5v4. They get the pull into Auzrik, pull him right back in, and Tier 1 tower crumbles.
The Uller Axe stun, so important to prevent the pushback afterwards. Auzrik still very low as Predators trying to be that zoner, finds the pull yet again, and another push. He's serving them up on the dinner plate. 2 additional Fable members die as the Tier 2 tower gets demolished. RvL not done yet, heading for that first Firebird.
Yeah, this team fight from RvL is just too strong. It doesn't matter if you have the occasional Guan Yu heal. If you get pulled back into all the bursts at once, the cavalry charge is going to come out to try and get the stun out, but they turn around and burn him almost immediately. He does get the heal and dash back through, but Phoenix is down, and he's down. Vaporous Coast letting them hear it as they find the kill. 15-3 for Team RvL. The current champs are looking good.
Hear me roar as Vaporous Coast. A little taunt at the end just to make a more spicy Fable. Can't get the ball rolling, but RvL are starting to push this boulder down the mountain as Fable is waiting at the bottom, unfortunately. Trying to bounce back into this game is still doable if they can get the levels. They need to hit that level 20 marker. Even if they have 5.5 items against a 6, Fable's composition is still impressive in team fights. They just need to make sure that Predator's pull-push combination either gets absolutely avoided or they can disrupt it the same way Davey did with that Uller Axe stun.
Right. And Predators and Rapio played so well as BB could be in a little bit of trouble. In fact, he is. Vaporous Coast finds the last hit, and they once again have isolated the Geb and brought him down 1-5-1 now as the boulder comes in and hits Davey. Not quite enough to take away the speed, but Fire Giant being looked at now by RvL. Predators and Rapio on zoning duty yet again, and Fire Giant down to half health.
That's how you zone. RvL are definitely, all right, you guys stole the Gold Fury, but you know what? We're going to zone 3 miles away from this Fire Giant, making sure nobody's going to steal it at 24 minutes, securing this first one, establishing a very dominant over 10,000 gold lead. They're getting the extra structure damage to allow themselves to start closing out this game.
And Predators is looking for Waldrom, as he has done all game long. I feel like that's been his assignment, hasn't it? Been finding the Discordia in these team fights, not letting her get lost, and punishing this build where it's high damage but not quite as much safety as normal. And Predators has done an excellent job of that so far.
There's the sustain from Hercules, trying to disrupt the back from Waldrom as the rest of his team is going down the right side. Phoenix.
50-meter fly has already found ChronicThe. Davey, the next one on the chopping block, finds the cavalry charge and takes him down. Vaporous Coast is actually able to get the kill on the mounted archery. Phoenix on the right-hand side being looked at. Mid-Phoenix is actually already down. They're going to jump away, though, from BB91 and head right back over to the right Phoenix and take it as well.
Everyone from RvL doing their assignment dedicated to allow themselves this huge advantage. Fire Minions are about to trickle down the mid lane. Need to get the tier 2 on the left before they engage on the Phoenix, and that's RvL's game plan. They want to be more safe than sorry, and Rapio has always been so patient about knowing when to get out. We were talking about his patience in the dual lane, but also the patience of even when he blinks onto Auzrik around the tier 2 tower on the right, he's not going to die the tier 2 tower on the right if he doesn't have the abilities. He's just going to allow his teammates to clean up, and in that situation, it was Fly.
Any surprise at all that this team was able to win the LAN, though, with how clean that they play? I mean, especially the way they're looking right now. Good strife does come out from Waldrom, but it's just not going to be enough. Already going in as Predators to try and zone away Auzrik while the rest of the team puts damage into the Phoenix. This is the only one still standing for Fable. As the push comes back in, it's Chronic who's in the backside. Cataclysm does hit 3 members and deter RvL for a moment, but they'll just regroup and wait on the next minion wave.
Auzrik holding on to his ultimate. Waldrom doesn't have the apple to throw away quite yet, and it's RvL trying to take advantage. 2 Firebirds are down. Auzrik diving the backline. Can he do anything?
Cavalry charge comes out from Auzrik, but not able to find it. Up onto the Tycho drums is Fly, and Chronic the Bros has nowhere to go. Uses the ultimate to knock up 3 members. He is able to sustain for a moment, but Rapio hunts him down and takes out the first kill of this fight. It's a 5v4 as RvL regroup and look for this last Phoenix one more time.
Meditation from Auzrik being used, but like you mentioned, it's a 4-on-5 with Fire Giant on RvL. Minions are starting to trickle down the mid and the right side. If they don't defend the left, they're about to lose their Titan.
That's right. The Titan is under siege from those minions. They have got to turn their attention back. Waldrom finds DineOhSaw. That's a very important kill that Fable is able to find. Predators continue to try and keep the mid laner distracted, but minions continue to bark at the Titans. They've only sent back 1.
That took a lot of damage.
There's so many.
It's 25% health. Can this be a repeat of what happened before at the LAN? It very well could be if it's only going to be Auzrik.
They're not letting anyone else go back, though. Look at Rapio keeping him busy. Davey is trying to make his way back the hard way. Finally, they force the minions back out, but the damage has been done. Rapio is able to hunt down Davey in the mid lane where the Phoenix has respawned. The surrender votes coming out. Team RvL are pulling out all the threads.
Predators trying to solo this, but he needs to get more follow-up damage. Fly right around the corner, as is Vaporous Coast. First game going to RvL.
That's going to do it. Team RvL looking just as clean as ever. 27 minutes, 8 seconds is all that it's going to take for 22 kills to be amassed. RvL continue to look so dominant at this point, don't they?
And very clean. Only giving up 4 deaths during this process of closing out the first game. You could just tell that RvL, they're not going to allow this to be a fluke. Their spring split performance. They're going to transition this dominantly in the summer.
And Rapio, man, when he gets this Robin pick, he looks great with it on land. He looks great with it here. I mean, in the jungle, he's so strong for them. And keeping them ahead throughout that, I feel like early to mid-game gave plenty of time for Predators to rotate in. And there was just no answer to that Hercules.
The Hercules was being obnoxious, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
And if I'm looking at picks and bans, I'm like, okay, maybe we draft something to at least get rid of the Hercules. Maybe take a Circuit for ourselves. Maybe get more anti-healing potentially to really shut him down. A Nemesis even to potentially get Predators off the map in that mid to late game.
And maybe just something to give them a little bit more pressure early on, because RvL were able to do such a good job forcing fights around the objectives. Remember that fight around the Pyromancer? I don't even think they get it initially, but they get like 3 kills off of it. They do the same thing at the Gold Fury. I mean, they repeatedly forced Fable to fight them, and they just had the better fight.
Once they had that early game pressure, they didn't want to deal with the late game team prowess between the Geb and the Guan Yu. So RvL came in with a strategy. They recognized what Fable wanted to do. They denied them that potential team fighting aspect, and they come out with the W.
And don't forget, Fable's dual lane got off to a good start when Rapio was able to find 2 kills off of Auzrik's over-aggression in the mid lane. It was Davey and Bad Boy that were able to find the 2 kills in dual lane, and still that pressure was not enough for them. RvL just hung on perfectly and did a good job sticking with it.
That's what hunters kind of do. Like, even if you do get behind at one time, it needs more than the one death to really shut down a hunter. You need to at least sit in that lane repeatedly, find that 3rd, maybe even 4th kill on him.